Now then, Vinyl Monkey again, ranking some of my albums again this week, and this week it is the one and only, the singular, the unique really, Captain Beefheart, or Don Van Vliet, as he, well, it wasn't an original name, but that was the name he changed it to. I think it was close to Don Van Vliet anyway, but yeah, Captain Beefheart, an absolute one-off. 12 albums he made between, when was it, between 67, 68 and 1982, when he, in many of his fans' view, prematurely announced his retirement from music to focus on his painting, because he started off as a prodigious sculptor apparently as a kid, and then got involved in painting, and he retired from music in 1982. So of those 12 albums, now a slight apology, unfortunately I have got them all, but I've only got half of them on vinyl, and the other half are on CD, so I've had to do my listening and assessments on CD, and I haven't got the vinyl to hold up, and I probably won't be buying it, and that's not because I don't love Captain Beefheart stuff. I do. It's really because, mainly I suppose because of the cost. Some of the particularly the original pressings, really expensive. And I'm not sure about the sonic quality. I think it's so variable with my Captain Beefheart stuff. I've got some that have got a really good sound, some much less so. I'd have to be convinced there was a real benefit in buying the vinyl, sonically I think. But anyway, here we go. I've got 12 to get through. I'm going to rank them 12 to number 1. I guess there'll be lots to argue about, because I'm not a Beefheartologist, really. I mean, I know one or two people who really are, usually also Zappa fans as well, who are really familiar with his stuff. And anyway, I'm not one of those, but I've always liked Frank Zappa. I'm not keen on Frank Zappa actually. I've always liked Beefheart. There always has been a comparison. They are friends, they did work together, they combined on various albums. Zappa produced some of Beefheart's stuff. Personally, I always find Zappa sort of cold, and Beefheart warm and more human, if you like. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. So I'm gonna rattle through. I've got some notes actually, because I'm not feeling 100% today. I'm not sure my memory will serve me well enough. So here we go. At number 12, and this is probably the one where I guess most Beefheart fans, and Beefheart himself, would sort of place at the bottom. Doesn't mean it's a bad album, but this is Blue Jeans and Moonbeams from 1974. This is the one that came out after his entire band, the Magic Band. I mean, he's gone through various phases and various band members, but essentially his backing band, the Magic Band, served with him, and with some variations from 68 to 73, when they all departed, fed up of getting no money, getting no recognition, I think, from him, getting abuse. I mean, he was renowned for abusing his band members physically and verbally, threw one of them down a set of stairs allegedly. Anyway, they all upped and left, and Beefheart produced this album, which is essentially with a set of session musicians. And the problem with it is it's not terrible. Certainly the first three tracks I think are really good. And the musicians are obviously really good, but they just don't sound like Beefheart's band. They don't sound like the Magic Band. They sound like sort of 70s, mid-70s, sophisticated rock. So it's my number 12, Blue Jeans and Moonbeams. Best tracks for me. The first track, Party of Special Things to Do, and maybe the third track, Observatory Crest. But that's my number 12. My number 11, from 1968, his second album. This is Strictly Personal. This was certainly more experimental than his first album. It was a sort of sign of things to come. Some good stuff on there, some really good songs. I love Beetle Bones and Smoking Stones, Candy Corn, I Feel Like Acid, but I think apparently some controversial sort of post-production or post-recording sort of production effects were added, and I don't think Beefheart was ever happy with them himself, but the result is this is a sort of muddy, mushy sort of sound, and yeah, so it's my number 11, Strictly Personal, from 1968. My number 10, this is from 1974, Unconditionally Guaranteed, and perhaps this is Beefheart's most straight, his most simple album. It's essentially a set of love songs to his wife. I really like this album. A lot of fans would have this down at the bottom. Beefheart himself called it vulgar and crude. As I say, it's much more straightforward than the complex stuff he'd done through the late 60s, early 70s. But I think they're really good songs, and I think if this was a debut album it would be considered a great album, but it followed those four great, sort of 3 or 4 brilliant albums, and you know, it suffered reputationally because of that, but I think it's a really nice album. Upon the My Oh My, which is there's a good version of that from the Whistle Test in '74 up on YouTube. Yeah, This Is the Day. I mean, he sings beautifully on it, and I say the love songs to his wife, but I've got it as my number 10, Unconditionally Guaranteed, from 1974. My number 9, I think a lot of people probably would have this one higher, but this is Clear Spot from 1972, and the only version I've got is where they've doubled it up on a CD. They've combined it with Spotlight Kid, which came out in the same year, and whilst I think it is a good album, there's some really good songs, and I don't know whether this is my version, it just doesn't sound great, and you know, maybe the vinyl version would be better, maybe there are other CD versions would be better than this, but it's because of that I think I've got it so low. I love Big Hard Beans from Venus on this, and it is a good, song-wise, it's a good album, but sound-wise, my version at least, not so I've got it as my number 9, Clear Spot from 72. My number 8, Safe as Milk from 1968, an absolute fantastic debut album. I mean, this just shows what this guy could do, taking the Delta blues apart, blending it with all sorts of things from post-beat poetry, avant-garde, freeform jazz, doo-wop even in there somewhere, but and then mixing it all up and putting it all back together and serving it up in just absolutely, yeah, brilliant, delicious debut album. Bigger range of styles than on most of his subsequent stuff. I love the opening track, Sure Enough, Yes I Do, Electricity, Autumn's Child, brilliant stuff. Safe as Milk, 1968, his debut album, my number 8. My number 7 is Mirror Man from, well, it was released in 1971. It was actually produced, but they got into some complications. I don't know the detail of it. Produced a couple of years earlier, 68 I think. It actually says on the back that it was recorded one night in 1965, but apparently that isn't true. It's just invented. And I think Van Vliet was prone to invention. But this is basically 4 long blues Beefheartian jams, and most of Beefheart's stuff are very short songs. Some of his albums are, you know, literally the average song length 2 minutes, but this one ranges 4 songs, all ranging from 10 to 20 minutes. And yeah, I love it. I love those long blues jams. The lyrics, which are usually extremely expansive and surrealistic, are much more limited on this one. But I think the long songs allow you to get into the groove, and I enjoy listening to this one. So I've got it as my number 7, Mirror Man from 1971. My number 6 from 1980 is this was his Dock at the Radar Station, and this was the second of his sort of comeback albums after the sort of aberration, as some fans sing it, in the mid-70s. He came back. This is his second comeback album with his Magic Band Mark II, if you like. The band on this album are absolutely superb. The lyrics are fantastic. I think it's a particularly dissonant and challenging album, but a great album nonetheless. I love the track, second track, Ashtray Heart, and the last track, Making Love to a Vampire with a Monkey on My Knee. Yeah, brilliant stuff. That's my number 6, Dock at the Radar Station, 1980. My number 5 was the one that preceded that. This was the sort of comeback album with Magic Band Mark II. I think this one is just an absolute brilliant. I mean, I love the cover. He often used his own paintings on the covers, but it's a brilliant and varied musical and lyrical journey. I think this album, it's just fantastic all the way through it. The superb trombone playing on it. I think they call him Bruce Fowler. I love the dimension that instrument adds to this. Side 1, absolutely outstanding. I mean, side 2, not as strong, but still just a great album. I love the tracks Tropical Hot Dog Night, The Floppy Boot Stomp, and Back Chain Puller itself. But great album, Shiny Beast, Back Chain Puller, my number 5 from 1978. My number 4 is his last album, 1982, Ice Cream for Crow. Great photograph on the front of Beefheart looking drained, exhausted. I don't know whether that's reflective of his decision to retire to his painting, but this was his last album. It includes some sort of reworked older tracks. There's quite a lot of him speaking rather than singing, but I think that's pretty effective. I mean, I think it in some ways highlights the surreality of the lyrics a little bit more, gives them his lyrical gymnastics on this album are absolutely superb, and it's a cohesive album. I think it really does hang together. So that's my number 4, Ice Cream for Crow, and he did make a video actually to go with this album, which is a great video, and that one's up on YouTube. Have a look at that. Now then, my top 3. My number 3 from 1970, Lick My Decals Off, or Decals as the Americans call them and Beefheart calls them, Lick My Decals Off Baby. This follows on in a similar vein to its predecessor, in that it consists of lots of short songs. There's 15 very short, generally short songs. And they're all good. They include a couple of instrumentals, just really, really off the wall sort of stuff. It's not quite as experimental as its predecessor in my view, but if you want to get into Befart a little bit more and read some of the sort of reviews, look up Lester Bangs' reviews, the brilliant rock journalist Lester Bangs, who wrote for the magazine Cream. And I just want to quote a quick extract from one of his reviews of this album. The Captain's lines are like magic flash floods of free association that never get murky, with strange jewel-like clusters of images, hilarious little vignettes from the lives of ratfish slouts and juicy mamas. Yeah, brilliant stuff. But read Lester Bangs on Beefheart. It's superb. That's my number 3, Lick My Decals Off Baby from 1970. My number 2 is perhaps Beefheart's masterpiece. Many would consider it his masterpiece. I'm not familiar with anything else quite like this at all. I mean, I just love the imagery and the language that he uses throughout it. It's 29 tracks across a double album, most of them minute and a half, 2.5 minutes maybe. Fast and bulbous. I can't get that saying fast and bulbous, which he uses throughout this album, out of my head as soon as I start thinking or listening to Beefheart. I mean, I've likened this in many ways to reading James Joyce's Ulysses. You know, passages of this can be really impenetrable and difficult, but then you hit upon passages which are just exhilarating. And yeah, I just, it's legendary how this was tightly rehearsed. He had this band locked up in some sort of house or building for months and months on end, rigorously learning these extremely angular, difficult, dissonant, what sounds like chaotic but complex songs, and yeah, produced by Zappa, who I think give Befart pretty much free rein, but an absolute masterpiece, nothing else like it. Trout mask replica from 1969. It's not a trout, of course, on the front, it's a carp mask, but I don't know why. Yeah. And my number one, and this would probably divide and upset proper Beefartologists, but my number one is the Spotlight Kid from 1972. Great picture of Don Van Vliet, Captain Beefheart on the front, and pictures of the band, paintings of the band members by Beefheart on the back. Great cover, I think. This has got much more traditional song structures than Trout Mask Replica and Lick My Decals Off. And it's just great songs right from the beginnings. I'm Gonna Booglerize You Baby, right through to Glider at the end. Just great song after song. It's more melodic perhaps, but it retains enough edge in my view to make it Beefheartian. Brilliant singing, and this one sounds absolutely fantastic. It's just got a great sound and a great production. So that's my number one, the Spotlight Kid from 1972. Cheers, thanks for listening, hopefully see you soon.